Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Justice Now. My name is Leah Jones, and I am the Education and Organizing Coordinator here at Virginia Interfaith Power and Light. Before we get started today, I'd like to do a very brief land acknowledgement. While we are on a video call and many of us are joining in from different places, we want to remind ourselves that we gather on the unceded land of the indigenous peoples. I'm joining in from so-called Richmond, Virginia, and I am currently located on the land of the Powhatan and Chickahominy peoples. If you are unsure whose land you are on and you would like to find out, you can always visit native-land.ca to find out. So this week, we are back again. We are continuing our Juneteenth series discussing the road to liberation and the ways to fight against this historical oppression, especially as it pertains to the environment. Today, we are specifically discussing the road to liberation as we are working towards achieving water justice here in the state of Virginia. Virginia residents face all sorts of injustices related to water every day, and this list, unfortunately, is still growing. Though water could easily be seen as our most important resource on this earth, right after the air that we breathe, access and availability to safe, clean, and affordable water are frequently threatened, and in many cases have been threatened for generations, disproportionately affecting so many of our Indigenous, Black, Brown, and low-income and rural communities here in the state. Things like industry pollution, antiquated water, stormwater, and wastewater infrastructure, increasingly high water utility fees, and flooding are all considerable ongoing threats to many of our neighbors here in the state of Virginia. So as we're moving into the future and the impacts of climate change continue to worsen, we see that addressing this long list of issues that I just mentioned in an equitable way is no longer something that we can ignore. It's really time to, recognize what's happening and uncover these issues and injustices that in many cases have been purposefully hidden, purposefully ignored. So to help us discuss some of their own experiences with some of these issues throughout the state, specifically in Suffolk, Virginia, and this road to liberation in hopes to resolve some of these inequities, I have the great pleasure of being here today with Lorna Taylor, member of the Greater Chuckatuck and Oakland Civic League and Oakland resident, along with Kelly Hangler from the executive president of the Community Civic League Organization for the Villages of Crittenden, Eclipse, and Hobson. Thank y'all so much for being here today. How are y'all doing?
What a pleasure. Lorna, do you have your mic?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
There you have it. Okay.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank y'all. I think it's such a pleasure to have you all here because just even from our original, just a few conversations that we have already, you all both have a wealth of knowledge in regards to the ongoing issues in your communities. So can you all just start by giving us a general overview, maybe you, Lorna, of what's happening in Suffolk regarding some of the ongoing water issues and sanitation issues that your community has been facing, that you've been experiencing?
Well, currently we have no sanitation that comes from the city. We are currently using septic tanks. And the city is not cleaning out the current ditches that were laid forth by our ancestors a long time ago, and they were taken over. They were really maintained by the state. However, the city decided that they were going to take over that responsibility, but they have not done anything to this area since they took over the maintenance of the ditches. So we're faced with a lot of flooding. There's a lot of infrastructure that has been placed in our community, and they're running all of the sediment, all of the water off of their property down onto our properties. When it rains, our area floods in several locations, and the city isn't doing anything about it. They're opening up, just running ditches, and these are open ditches which mosquitoes and everything decides that they're going to live in, and nothing is being done about that. They say that they are doing something, but we don't see the results. We used to have a community water system that was put in by 10 men from our community, and that was done, to my understanding, in 1932. And we stayed on that water system up until a few years ago, when the city decided to come in and take over our water system. Will close our water system down. However, we're being charged a fee for water, but we're still using the same pipes that was put in by these 10 men, which included my grandfather, that was galvanized pipes. So we're faced with a lot of issues, especially in regards to, the flooding in our area, and a lot of the people that are moving in and building. Matter of fact, one of the developments is coming in right behind Little Bethel Baptist Church, which was established in 1866. And because of that, the church is experiencing a lot of flooding. And the back part of the church area is constantly wet. That moisture is going into the church area. But they don't seem to think that it's a problem, but it's a big problem in the area. And I could go on, but I'm going to end there and let Kelly come in and share some things that she knows.
The story is quite remarkable about the water as a whole in Hampton Roads, and as we narrow down, and I've learned so much from Lorna, from everyone in the original settled areas, where there was 37, for instance, in Suffolk, if I have the exact correct number, of community wells. As we think about settled areas, when did municipal water, municipally treated water, actually come into hand, right? Well, the answer to that maybe rolled into the answer of it's 2022. And as Lorna said, these community wells were hand dug. You'll see a clip of a video that we've provided of Roosevelt Jones, who has been at the epicenter of being out there advocating, along with the support of the entire Chuckatuck borough here in Suffolk, because we discovered that not only the drinking water issue, but the septic and sanitation issue could be tracked through the Virginia Department of Environmental Health Shellfish Shoreline Survey all the way into the Nansemond River. So that report was done 2019, but it was known before that water had been traversing from higher level areas across septic tanks, carrying bacteria into the river. So that's level one. What happened in that situation, and we've been advocating, really very loudly, article in the Washington Post, article in the Guardian, WHRO, Wavy TV 10, and yet we've hit this plateau of trying to get actual sanitation into the community in Oakland. They have the septic, but the septic is being washed out, and it's backing up into some homes. That's one level. Then you add to that the water lines, the original water lines, as Lorna said, was hand dug by the communities, right? These communities have been around for hundreds of years. And in this particular area, Freedman settled site, right? Acknowledged Little Bethel Church. And so these pieces are not being acknowledged. The galvanized pipe still in the ground being used, but the city has taken over the actual water itself. There's, again, 37 community wells, over 7,000 private wells in the area. Burnt Mills is a picture that I shared to you as a reservoir that was created by damming up the Nansemond River. So where Lorna is and Chuckatuck is at the headwaters of the Chuckatuck Creek. Okay, Burnt Mills receives water all the way down from the Dismal, okay, through creek and stream beds, and that water actually belongs to Norfolk. Right? So here we go. We're all together as one in this issue, but people are not aware of what's happening right there where that water source is in Oakland. Anything that affects it affects everyone, whether it's Norfolk resells Suffolk the water, Norfolk uses the water, Portsmouth may use the water. Several cities use our reservoir systems that are in Suffolk for their municipal water. Meanwhile, Oakland Chuckatuck is on 1932 pipes that they put in the ground, galvanized pipes with no sanitation. So this wealth of growth and being of this community in Oakland and Chuckatuck being left, without water quality, without being able to answer to having municipal service sanitation, without being able to have renewed and revitalized pipes, is, however, being built upon what Lauren is speaking about with development that's being given sanitation and municipal pipes, individual and large plan development. So here we are at a crossroads, and best that we can do is tell our story as a joyous story of community, of resource, and at the same time, 1932 to 2022 is a long time, right? And it's time now to bring those services and resources and make us whole in the community. You might say, well, Ms. Kelly, I'll give you 30 seconds on this. All the way out, what have we done? We have been to media. We have been to council for years now. We have called town hall meetings, which you might see video clips of. And we are Crittenden, Eclipse, and Hobson, which is a peninsula that very, very rarely is known. It's called Barrett's Neck. And at the tip of that peninsula between the Nansemond River, the Chuckatuck Creek, and the James River, we have coexisted with Chuckatuck, Oakland, Hobson, Sandy Bottom, all of these remote communities for hundreds of years. We too had a well system that was taken, okay? But interestingly, where the city says that they can't come and have direct meetings with the public, they did in Crittenden and Eclipse, okay? They came down here like steadfast and made sure, because why? We have waterfront available property to build on, right? Water views. And so they came in, gave them like a 30-day notice. This happened all across Suffolk. Will cost you $100,000 to update this well if you want to keep this well, or we're going to have to take over the well. And so they brought in sewage and sanitation right underneath the streets just in the last, I think it was about 10 years. And it was to allow for, more building, which we're not opposed, but you also can't have the argument that you can't do that in Oakland and Chuckatuck. You've done it here. We stand with our neighbors, our friends, our beloved family there in Oakland and Chuckatuck, and they need to show up. If you did it in one place, what's known in one place is known in all places, is what I like to say. So they need to show back up in Oakland and Chuckatuck and make it happen as quickly as they did out here in Crittenden and Eclipse. And any other community that is lacking, and I'm not even touching on the stormwater part. So I hope that was clear and succinct. I hope that left people with something insight, on what we're advocating for here for clean water. Thank you.
No, 100%. I think there's so much, even just in what you all said, but I think especially one of the larger overall takeaways that at least I'm getting is just, for one thing, just going off of the point earlier, things being ignored, but ignored out of convenience for what is convenient for the city and for those making the most money, or in an effort to, I guess, make money for the city. But that then brings me to my next question of, why? Like, why Chuckatuck? Why Chuckatuck and Oakland? Like, I know there's typically a reason, and something tells me that it connects back to our history, right?
Yeah.
What are the demographics looking like? So how do we see this, these issues that you all have recognized are ongoing, especially in regards to the sanitation and, municipalities taking over private well systems? Like, how do you all see that connecting to environmental justice and environmental racism even?
Well, Oakland and this land in this area, I'm quite sure you probably already noticed, was originally owned by the Nansemond River Indians. And as Oakland was basically developed after men went into World War One, World War Two, they saved their money, they came back, they bought property. And back during that time, a lot of blacks could not buy higher land property. They would have to buy property that was of a lower value or in swamp areas. And they came back and they built their communities. But now what we're facing is the developers coming in, and they're just developing all of these, any piece of property that they can pick up to develop. Their building homes on it, which are actually on slabs. All of the original homes around here are on crawl spaces. So once they come in and build their piece of property, they're building the land up high. So that means the existing homes are on crawl spaces. So the water is running off of those particular homes down to the crawl spaces of the neighbor and going under their house. We're facing with being sometimes pumping water out from under homes because of it. Oakland was basically a African American community, and we did what we could do, to develop this area. And now it's like when we were buying the property, they would tell us that we would have to have so many lots in order to build. Now these people are coming in, buying one lot and building. Whereas we had a lot of people that walked away from their property because they were just paying taxes on property that they could never do anything with. But now with these new developers, they can come in and build whatever they want. You can literally, in between these homes, you can't even drive a car in between them. That's how close they are.
Oh, right on top of each other.
They're right on top of each other.
Which is why the flooding can be so bad.
That's right.
Straight down.
And when our ancestors bought the property, they bought it with hopes of being able to build, but they will always say, oh no, it won't perk. So you can't build on it. But now, because of this new system that they have for septics, they are allowing these people to build. The new development, they allowed them to, the city put a sewer system in for them going right past our homes, which has been here. I'm 66 years old. We've never had sewage out here. We've always had septic tanks. But you can come in and do this for the new developer, but you can't provide that service for us. And you literally told us that we could not hook on to the system.
Right. Something isn't adding.
Oh, they're adding. They're adding and they're saying, no, you can't have it, but we're going to give it to these new people.
Right.
Which is an insult. It's a slap in the face. And then they run the water, their sediment and all of that stuff off of their property onto the existing properties who have been taxpayers for this area for years. So it's just unfortunate that the city does not see that allowing these developers to come in to make their money and leave us with the fallout of the problem.
Which, I'll step in for a second, Leah, because this is a bit surprising. When it comes to fair housing, land use, etc. I won't get into terms that kind of make people want to reach for a cup of coffee, but basically Oakland and Chuckatuck, as smart growth goes, was not slated. I mean, what we've been doing in all of the cities across Hampton Roads was supposed to connect to the last best available sewage and water, right? To avoid urban sprawl, to do the best. Well, Oakland and Chuckatuck had a village initiative done under the Urban Institute. So did all of the existing, whether they had enough people to be called a town, unincorporated towns. And so they had that done over 20 years ago. And even further back in 1970, when all Virginia voted for, a new constitution, then they voted for a merger of Nansemond County. This is Nansemond County. There was a marl pit there, which is now Lone Star Lakes, that presented a cement factory as well as agricultural jobs. So these are hardworking, at commerce people, and some of the industry, has had its time and passed away, but lumbering, community, very hardworking and connected together, who are now placed into the position of still not having services in the year 2022, right? That one would automatically think a community has, such as you would begin building on that community, right? So these new homes, some of them are getting new pipes run because there wasn't pipes from the original community well systems to them, but the existing pipes are not being replaced, right? So what we don't understand, because this is kind of a rip the Band-Aid off situation, and we have raised, quite an inquiry about it. There was in the American Recovery Act money designated for a fresh start, stage phase 1 for sanitation. Well, even if that money was still intact right now, and I'll explain why it went away, for the American Recovery Act plan, it would be 3 to 4 years to design specifically the sanitation. 3 to 4 years from right now. If that money was sitting here with us right now, if we were celebrating right now, 3 to 4 years before shovel ready, and they could move that. Plus, the stormwater in the area is horrific, so they would have to stabilize that as well. What happened was, back to my comment, and I will say it before anyone, I will speak to any legislature in support of Oakland, Chuckatuck receiving sanitation and proper water lines, is that there was a rush, like I said, to hear in Crittenden Eclipse, to put in those water lines, because they built homes also that wouldn't perk, and there was enough of a powerful voice, waterfront property, Suffolk likes to advertise, but in the same tone, they refused to come back after a town hall meeting that we held, where the primary discussion wasn't actually what we called a town hall meeting for, which was the stormwater issues, drainage issues, sanitation issues in June of last year. They gave these 15-minute segments introducing us to each one of the departments of the city of Suffolk. Now imagine, if you will, a sanitation system under legislation in the Commonwealth of Virginia requires that you quote unquote petition. So they sent letters to each of the households without checking to make sure that those 71 households were already on the rolls for any type of tax, abatement, a lot of elders, right, in a minority community, and assured that they had that tax abatement. So you get a letter in the mail one day, haven't had a direct community meeting like we did here in Crittenden Eclipse, tells you that it'll be $6,700 to hook up, right, to the sanitation. Oh, but we can also, set you up on a payment plan where people's land has constantly been taken. Okay, so they only got about 18% of the letters back, because also this community has been rural, and a lot of folks receive their mail through the post office box. We checked back. We found out that trying to get landed letters, who has the title deed, under assessment, might not be right there at that mailbox, right? We have multi-generational properties, multi-generational culture, and the letter might not have been explained to whomever, because it was not explained to the person living under that roof.
Right.
They did not come back, and we demanded. We said, well, they showed up at the Civic League meetings, huh, Lorna? Oh, yeah. We came to the Civic League meetings. I said to you specifically, having a background in policy to outcome in this community, please come to the community and provide the same standard you provided in Crittenden Eclipse, right?
Right.
And assure that we are all having the same information
At the
with a
very
little
least, yeah.
extra because of how much it costs to connect to this.
Yeah.
Right now, one last overlay for anybody please excuse me because I need to add this detail. The state did pass and did acknowledge in that Washington Post article by Jim Morrison an issue with these secondary mound systems, right, that they're putting in areas. We don't believe that the secondary sanitation mound systems are supposed to push out and disallow sanitation. Okay, they're failing. They're failing because they're putting the mound systems in these super wet, low-lying areas, okay? And that is in the article. You can go into details with that. But now the idea that's been put out there is, oh, well, the state is looking at. We don't need more looking at. There's money granted because we talked to the top, VDH, to say that there's possibly money that's been possibly set aside in the budget to come and address sanitation in these communities. It's to replace conventional septic systems. Okay. It's not to bring in something that takes 3 to 4 years to plan. So the end point of the story, and Lorna can back me on this, is that the city of Suffolk reallocated the money for the sewage and this new sanitation phase 1 to those 71 homes because they didn't do the work. I will stand by it. And that's I don't think I could have to say less, right? So Lorna, you want to take it from there? Did I speak correctly?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I mean, whoa.
It's mostly seniors. It's mostly seniors in our community, and which I am one now. So, you talking about people who are in their 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Right.
So, if you send them something and say it's going to cost $6,000, do you really think they're going to respond?
Why would they?
And then and the sad part about it, in the area that they went to, they knew that they were going to get that type of response.
But it's really just to say that they did something, so that when it does come to the surface, they can say, "Oh, what do you mean? What are you talking about? We did our part. The community wasn't responsive. So now you have to backtrack and do all of this extra work to prove that that's not in case what happened, which is, I guess, where you all are now."
Yeah, and even with the town hall meeting, a lot of people got up and walked out because they came there to discuss the flooding issue we're having, and they wanted to tell us about the police department, urban development. I mean, all of the city services. That's what they spent the majority of their time discussing.
So that brings me to my next question. And I can tell just in the underlay from you all's statements thus far, how do you all feel about the city's actions? How do all of the other residents who are living out there in your community feel about the city's actions, or I guess rather lack of action, to solve these infrastructural issues ongoing in your communities? And did you all have any ideas maybe for solutions to some of these inequities that you all have already noticed?
Well, we have been going to city council and voicing our, concerns there. But to be honest with you, the people in this community are used to the city not doing anything for us. Because if it had not been for those 10 men that dug those ditches and put that water system in for us, we would not have had sanitation. We would have still had toilets. Those 10 men and got together, spent their own personal money and dug the lines and put it in so we could have water, because we all had wells. And some families used to share a well. and they put this system in the water. It was called Oakland. It was privately owned at first, and then the city came in and, you know, was making all of these complaints about the system. You know, the water isn't healthy and this and that and the other, but you let us drink it from 1932.
That's what I was about to say. Yes, all these years
it was
have
okay
passed.
to
Yes.
drink all of that long time.
Yes.
You know, but when you get the money to come and run the pipelines, you know, down Godwin Boulevard for you to put the water in, then all of a sudden, it has too much fluoride. Well, to the point that I had my son in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that was said to me from Overseas Hospital was, you're in Chuckatuck or Oakland, so be careful with the water because it'll cause brown spots on your teeth. Well, they've been knowing that for years. Okay.
And just
so as I'm saying, they knew if it was okay for us to drink it from all of those years, but all of a sudden now it's just too contaminated. So what did you think about your citizens that were paying you taxes? And what do you think about them now? And that's what I'm saying. They don't show up because they know nothing is going to be done.
Yeah.
That's the way they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And they will tell you, oh, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. They've never done anything for us. And they haven't.
Yeah. Just a real lack of trust.
Yeah. And we're not, and this really doesn't have anything to do with it, but we're, you know, we have people who have moved away from the area that are not planning on coming back. So then you have all of these realtors that's coming in, buying up land cheap. Mm-hmm. And even have some people that are being paid to go find the heirs of property so they can buy it. What was it, $5,000, Kelly?
Yeah, it's a bit of a underworld going on where the multiple partition properties, I mean, again, people have been told they quote unquote can't build because the land won't park, and been paying taxes, you know, hard. I mean, in order to acquire land, one has money, okay, that you worked hard for, put down, maybe grandmother, you know, family, etc., hope for the future always, and then decades and decades and decades of being told, oh, you can't build on that because it's low lying, it won't park. Maybe there was something there before. Yes, historically, before there was the sanitation systems, right? Before septic systems, you do put in septics where you can, yeah, conventional septic. And then this whole story of we're going to tell you that land won't park, right? But now someone can come and broker a fee after your family's been paying for how many generations, okay, for a piece of land, waiting for the day when they can build on it, waiting for the hope story, okay, of anyone can look it up. It's called the Oakland Chuckatuck Village Initiative. You just put it in your Google bar, okay, and it'll bring up this whole plan that was talked about 20 years ago. So as this has been followed and the promises made, people sat back and said, okay, we have a plan. There's a plan coming for us, which means services, which means water, you know, etc. Well, they came for the water, right? Just to meter it. They came for the water to go ahead and add people to it without replacing 1932 original pipes, you know, from that those community wells. It's community wells plural, by the way, okay? And they, since the city has taken over for VDOT back in 2006, none of the stormwater, they call them A to B ditches, they're deep ditches to help the water stay off the land, okay, have been kept up. You have streets that are very narrow, that were all hand dug by the communities, by the way, cart roads, paved over. I mean, this is a historic community, paved over, but not necessarily meeting our current idea of urban, you know, streets and roads, right? And so those ditches were kept up by VDOT though, okay, but not kept up by the city of Suffolk. So it's a multiple layer issue, right? Where stormwater fees are being paid. Where's the stormwater upkeep, right? of these
Right.
regimes of pulling
What
the
are my
water off
keys
the
going
land.
to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you have, but you can have folks come out, get a $5,000 broker fee, chase around. I mean, people are driving to families' homes outside of the state to go chase them down, to try to get them to sign a piece of paper to sign away this land, not realizing that suddenly the Band-Aid has been ripped off. This is not how we do community revitalization. Okay. This is not how it's done. You bring in the services. Everything is to the best potential that it can be, right? For drainage, for stormwater, for water services, for sanitation services, and you link those people and you build to it. That's called smart growth. The problem that I think, and I've been told I'm very vocal about this, the city of Suffolk for 50 years, you will have a hard time finding anyone who had a degree in governance, okay, on the administrative side, on the city manager side. And so if you don't have people who know the laws, okay, who have experience, like many of the cities in the rest of Hampton Roads, who are coming to the forefront and saying, wait a second, I know this state statute. We worked through this problem over in this city that I was in. Here's this over here. Here's a grant program. Here's what we know that we can connect to and work around and get support for. Then you're going to keep having the same skip in the record. Okay, the interest level has to be there, the experience level has to be there, the action has to be there. So we have hit this plateau because what is that saying? You don't know what you don't know? Well, know this. We don't have that kind of governance on the administrative city staff side in Suffolk. We don't. We need help from the outside to answer about solutions, okay? We need support, and we need to know that this beautiful, glorious history is there in this community. They're willing to do and be proactive, have been out there vocal, and have boots on the ground to look at this strategically, because this is old historic, right? Hand shoveled, hand dug, community wells, streets, and roads, right, that don't fit the necessary urban, quote unquote, that do deserve 100% 2022, right, style services. And I think to find that, to send that voice out there into the verse, you know, and see who has had that innovative approach to communities, who can come down and meet with all of us in the Chuckatuck Borough, because we wholeheartedly support Oakland and Chuckatuck and Sandy Bottom. Then we're here, you know, reach out any way you can. And 3 to 4 years, if we had the money today just to give them sanitation, how long to do a parallel of replacing all of the water pipes, right? The galvanized water pipes in 1934, and really connecting the community. And can we stop building where their infrastructure isn't ready for it, and stop flooding out the people that live there for a minute? Just take a beat, you know, is what we're saying. So I hope that helped as well. Lorna, did I say what? Yeah, okay.
100%. Well, thank you all so much. And I think we are kind of going with time now. So I don't want to keep you all for too much longer, but I guess we can just wrap up with just a few ways that people can maybe learn more or get involved. I think you all maybe mentioned a couple. Just, I know, Kelly, you mentioned a few resources people could look back to if they would like to learn more. But would you like to take a moment to share ways folks can learn more and help you all in this fight?
Did she hear you?
Yeah, I heard you. Oh, you wanted me to go? Okay. So I think the easiest thing to do is again, in the Google bar, you can look it up. If you wanted to see the initiative for 20 years ago, you can type in Oakland, you can type in Chuckatuck. They have a Community Civic League meeting. Lorna, is it next Monday? Is it the third Monday of every month?
It's the third
right?
Monday of every month.
At the Firehouse in Chuckatuck. And anyone can join there. They can reach out to the Civic League itself. And I'm just trying to think of seminal documents that you can reach to. I mean, look up that article by Jim Morrison that I mentioned in the Washington Post, because it's true for here and it's true for many, many EJ communities. Okay. Not only Oakland. So maybe we can get up underneath that and support bringing real solution by showing that this is a problem throughout. Yeah. And engage together and collaborate together. So here I am, folks, if you could pick up the phone and talk to your interfaith. We're inviting interfaith to come out, Virginia Interfaith to come out and visit, so we can do some storytelling, some elevating storytelling as well in the community, and keep the story going. So all are invited, and I can't send that invitation out, Lorna, you have to do that, but we support the invitation.
We're welcome. We will be thankful for anybody who will come out and just walk around and look and see for yourself. Talk to our seniors. They'll be glad to tell you.
Yeah, because this is a whole layered, very layered, and it seems like goes back for generations, issue that has yet to be addressed. And if anything has showed us through you all's experiences, Lorna, through your story, talking about how so many people are just experiencing flooding on their property. And this is the property that they've owned for years, land they've owned their whole lives. And before they were even a thought on this earth, and that means something.
Yes.
So I think,
I wanted to share, Leah, that we have been very, very active, and we have so much thanks to give to Virginia Department of Health. Environmental has had boots on the ground, right? But they have a very narrow swim lane, right? They have come down and walked and looked and made sure that people's actual septic systems, they're intact. That's not the problem. We've had stormwater experts, walking up and down looking for that piece. Just so many resources, have come to the ground, but we actually need to move it forward, and we need to have these meetings with the community, and we need the septic. 3 to 4 years. If somebody was sitting there designing, the system right now before they would get the sanitation system. So that is what we face. So we have so many thanks to give the Coastal Resilience Master Plan people from DCR. These are known issues, state engagement. So we don't want to not give gratitude for those who could do in their swim lane what they can do. But at this point, we're at the can do point. We really need to address the climate change, the heavier rains. Let's maintain, let's put in stormwater. Let's get the sanitation in the ground, and let's, elevate this community, this beautiful, beautiful community that is underrepresented, by the way, and it's historic storytelling.
All right, well, let's get to it. And I hope that you all at home watching also were able to learn more and also feel encouraged to show your support in this fight as well. I pray that we make progress because people's lives depend on it. But for everyone watching at home, thank you all again for tuning in. Thank you so much. Miss Lorna Taylor, thank you so much. Kelly Hangwin for being here today. It was so great to meet you all and talk with you all like this. Hopefully first of many conversations. But to everyone watching at home, we'll be back again this time next week as usual. You can also join our efforts and everything VIPL, see what we have going on by joining our e-newsletter, joining our supporters list, where you can also keep up with what we'll be doing, hopefully with Miss Lorna and Miss Kelly down the road. So thank you all. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you.
Leah, I have a question. You were saying if you wanted to find out whose land you were on, what was that website again?
Oh, it's native-land.ca.